Shell of Shells Creations. Today I want to show you some ways that you can mix up the CU Stitches Toolkit to make stitches in a variety of different ways. We are going to be working with the CU Stitches Toolkit. Let's begin first with the Stitches Toolkit Wide Cross Casual. And most of the styles of stitches come in two different formats. They come as casual and then regular. Casual means they're kind of a little more wonky than the regular ones. This is the Wide Cross Casual. First thing we want to do that we can mix it up or make these more useful is to go ahead and make them, stack them end on end. And so let's change the canvas size. This says the size is about 3 1/3 inches. So I'm going to make it 7 inches, and I'm going to leave my stitches over on the left edge there. And then remember, holding down Alt and then clicking and dragging will duplicate those stitches. And let's move them right near the end here so that it appears just kind of close. They don't have to be exact, that we have 2 sets there. So that's one of the first things that you can do. Just duplicate them end to end. Now we have about 6 1/2 inches. So if I wanted to repeat this again, I could go ahead and make the width of my, need to be about 14 inches, the width of my canvas. And now I'm going to take these two, holding down my Alt, I'm going to click and drag so that I've got 2 of them. I'll zoom back in to get the placement right. Remember, they don't match exactly, especially in this casual one, because they're meant to look just a little more casual and less formal. And then if it were me, I would go ahead and I'm going to put a guideline at 12 inches right here. And then I'm going to select all of those layers, and I'm going to go ahead and shrink it down, holding down my Shift key so that my shrinking stays in perspective. I'd shrink it down to that 12-inch line. Now you will have a length of stitches that is 12 inches long, or the width of a typical scrapbook page. Okay, so tip number 1 is to combine them, stack them end on end. Tip number 2 is to combine them together. What I have here is the straight stitches and also the lash stitches. And I'm going to drag, and this is the lash casual because they're a little more different each time. I'm going to drag that on top of the straight ones. And then I'm just going to substitute a few here and there. So I find it's easiest to play with them by duplicating them. And so I'm going to go in with my marquee tool, my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to say I would like that one, Command or Control J, and then I would like one that looks a little shorter, Command or Control J. Oops. Make sure you have the lash layer selected. And then I like this one because it's a little bit fatter and longer. And then I think I want to put a tall one in. And let's go with this one right here for my final one. This is the part where you get to be creative. Okay, what I'm thinking of when I do this is just how to make these so that I have a straight line with kind of hash marks on it once in a while. So let's turn that one just a little bit. And let's turn this one, let's flip this one the opposite direction. If I want to flip it horizontal, same thing with this one. Let's flip it also by clicking on one of the control corners, oops, and selecting our width, putting a negative or minus sign in front of it. We can flip it the opposite direction. Aha, something like this. Now don't forget that this thread is going to blend into the one behind it. So after you have everything placed where you want it, I would link those layers, or I would merge those layers together. And then they need a bit of a shadow underneath them, just enough for you to see that it's there. And so I would go ahead and add a small shadow style, but we're probably, we're going to want to drop that down drastically. I'd set it a distance of 5 and a size of 8. I probably would drop my distance to about 2 and my size to probably 3, just barely enough to be there. And then I really only want that shadow to show up over top of the layers below it. So I'm going to put that shadow on its own layer. Do that under Layer, Layer Style, right down here to Create Layer. And that'll put the layer style on its own layer. And now you can link it to those two, the background or straight pieces. I'm going to put those together so that I can link them. and then clip it to it. Now those shadows will only show up there. So the second way that you can make more out of the Stitches toolkit is to go ahead and combine them in different ways. Okay, and the third way that I want to show you is just mixing up the colors as you do it. You may look at the stitches and think, okay, this is the, these stitches are all made out of the same floss, but it might be fun if you just mixed up the colors. And so on this one, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to recolor these a super easy way. I would encourage you to recolor them in more involved ways to make them look more realistic. New fill layer, solid color. Let's go ahead and pick something in medium tone, and let's change the mode on that one to color. Again, this is just a simple way. I probably would do something more in depth than this. And then let's select every other stitch, holding down my shift key. And now let's do another color fill layer, new fill layer, solid color. And this time let's pick something else. And change that one also to color. Okay, now let's clip them down to our original stitch layer. There you go. So the third thing that I would recommend for stretching your stash and mixing these up is to go ahead and change up the color stitch to stitch. You can go through the colors in your color scheme and decide you can do 2 colors, you can do 3 colors. You can get creative in with your lasso tool, and even stitches that are touching, you can kind of trade those up. Okay, the fourth thing that you can do to stretch your stash is utilize these stitches in making your own shapes. Let's say that you have one of the icons in your kit is an arrow. You might have lips, you might have a fish, you might have a star, you might have a variety of things. But for the purposes of this, I'm going to show you on this arrow. I'm going to use one of these straight stitches and put it on this arrow. Okay, now let's see what we can do about placement. I may not be able to exactly make the arrow, so I might have to approximate in some places. Okay, using your lasso tool, you can go ahead and zoom in, and you could do this with any tool, but I think the lasso tool is probably the easiest. Just carefully select the part that you want to, that's in the right place. And I'm going to hit Command or Control J, and now the bottom side down here is going to be the same, so I'm going to go ahead and just move this one down. Okay, let's take our original stitches, let's turn them on their end this way. You might have to get a little creative here about what fits and what doesn't fit. Sometimes I scrunch them up a little bit. Sometimes I stretch them just a little bit. I usually try not to stretch them too much. All right, let's just select the part in between those 2 stitches, and be sure that wherever it's going to show that you're careful to make sure that's a round part that you've taken out there. All right, let's move this one over. We want to move our original one over to right here. Now it looks like each of these is going to be longer than 2 stitches, and so here's a good example of where I'm going to have to scrunch them. But I'm going to carefully pick stitches that I don't feel like are too wide, like that one right there. Okay, let's go in and take the ones that we need out of right here. Now technically with this arrow, I could go ahead and just make the arrow point from where these 2 stitches ended up. But because I want to show you what you could do if you were trying to mimic an actual shape and you needed to follow it a little more closely than that, I would just shrink these down just a little bit so they're not quite as tall of stitches in that place. And let's go ahead and put these down here. That same spot. Let's turn our master stitch line back on, and let's rotate it. Okay, remember that when you are rotating, I've got this one exactly where I want it, and so I'm going to grab the crosshairs from the middle here and move them to that spot, and that means I will rotate around that spot. That also makes it so that when I try to rotate this, I can line the other side up. Okay, right there. Again, duplicating, you want to kind of be Be smart about your stitch duplicating. Repeat it as much as you can. It will be more helpful because you have to do less work, but don't repeat your stitches so much that people look at your thing and go, oh look, she just did the same thing 3 times. So sometimes I'm taking them from one edge, but most of the time I'm taking the stitches out of the middle so that it will appear that I'm using slightly different stitches each time. Okay, let's Control J that. Okay, that one might need to slide just a smidgen. Yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to duplicate that, holding down my Alt key and dragging it down here. And then I'm going to rotate this one just so that I end up with different, I don't have 2 matching stitches in the center right here. Now let's get the first corner in the right place. And let's slide the crosshairs from the middle here up to that corner. Now we can rotate our bottom corner into place. Okay, and there you go. So the fourth way that I would recommend that you stretch your stash is to go ahead and use the stitches that are there to create a stitch of the icons that are in your kit that fits with your kit. If you'd like more tips like these, join us in our designer club. Look for the link below. If you have any questions, you can reach me at shells.creations1@gmail.com. See you next time.